The Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has raised the case of Julian Assange directly with US President Joe Biden during their face-to-face talks at the White House. At the same time, Julian Assange's brother, Gabriel Shipton, has spent the week leading a campaign for Congress to apply some pressure to free him.
A looming prosecution described as persecution.
Wiser heads need to prevail. What has been served? What purpose has been served by keeping Julian in prison?
Gabriel Shipton agitating on behalf of his brother after visiting Julian Assange in jail last week.
He's in a very delicate position health-wise, and we're really fearful that if he is taken from the UK and extradited to the United States, that that will be it for him.
Behind bars in London's Belmarsh prison, the United States wants to bring him here to face charges for breaching their Espionage Act. Assange supporters say he's a whistleblower, pointing to his exposure of US military operations that killed civilians and were not made public. But he's also facing deep animosity for indiscriminately publishing classified material about the US State Department, operations in Afghanistan and Iraq, as well as Guantanamo Bay. This week's grand White House visit a chance for extensive engagement, bilateral talks, conversations on the hop, a friendly state ball celebration, and a hearing in the seat of US power. Anthony Albanese has now confirmed he raised Assange's case directly with the president, not divulging details of the private conversation, but telling 9 newspapers, "I've made it clear that enough is enough, that it's time it was brought to a conclusion." A key Biden administration spokesman would not be drawn on what could happen next.
I am not going to talk about extradition matters. That's an issue for the Department of Justice.
The US ambassador to Australia stayed close throughout this week's talks.
As you know, it's been raised at the highest levels, as the Prime Minister has said. And as you also have heard from our American officials, this is really something that's being handled by the Department of Justice.
Is it a sticking point in the relationship?
The relationship, I think, is so strong, but obviously people feel strongly about this particular issue as well.
The Assange congressional appeal is gaining traction. Democrat Jim McGovern and Republican Thomas Massie signing a letter to the Biden administration calling for the prosecution to be dropped on the basis of press freedom and international credibility. Today, the Republican releasing a further statement to SBS. President Biden should stop seeking Julian Assange's extradition and should instead drop the criminal charges currently being pursued by the Department of Justice. A cross-party group of Australian politicians has also made in-person entreaties to lawmakers in DC.
There is, political goodwill also for the Biden administration to take this up. This case is a real scandal, and Biden can end it very simply.
Despite an alliance declared to be at its strongest, relinquishing this prosecution could be a national security red line for the president. In Washington, Anna Henderson, SBS World News.